So my name is Elizabeth, and I'm calling in from Barrier Island off of the coast of exotic New Jersey. I live on Long Beach Island, and I am in New Jersey. I am 52 years old. I have now been in recovery for a solid 28 years. I quit drinking at the age of 24. I became an addictive drinker, and drinking always led to other things. So I had an amazing therapist early on that said, you don't have to identify yourself as an alcoholic or an addict, but you can identify yourself as somebody who's in recovery from the misuse of those things. So I'm a firm believer that my using really stemmed from trauma and an inability to deal with that trauma and not being given any tools to deal with it. So I'm okay with calling myself an alcoholic. I'm okay, but I don't know that that's how I identify myself wholly. I identify as somebody in recovery, and I don't drink.
So beautiful.
I started drinking at a very young age. I guess probably the first time I got really intoxicated was probably at the age of 15, maybe even younger. It was, a time, I grew up in a family that drank. Drinking was just the way it was. We all did it. I was introduced to it long before I even had a problem. I had parents that drank heavily. They were somewhat functional. We drink or we use drugs because I have that in my story as well. But we do it because it works. It works until it doesn't work. So that's why I believe that's why I drank. Do I also think there's a gene? Perhaps. Am I able to prove that? No. So do I really overly concern myself with that? I don't. But I have, if I'm going to take a guess, then absolutely there's a gene that I was probably born with, because when I picked up and it worked so well, it wasn't something I ever wanted to put down. And then even when I started my own recovery process, I couldn't put it down on my own. Through all these years of my recovery, I've seen people who can. They get their recovery going, they get a process going through whatever works for them, and they just stop drinking like that. And that was just not possible for me. I had the good girl, bad girl syndrome. So I was a really good girl because I got the grades. I got into the college I wanted to go to. Forgive me, it was the 80s, but I was, on the cheerleading squad and, all kinds of extracurricular activities so that I looked good on the outside because I didn't want anyone to think something was wrong with me. And then, come nightfall or any opportunity that I had, again, starting in high school and through college, I was off the rails. I was just a blackout drinker. I was at times violent. I got arrested. I spent a little bit of time in jail. If I didn't drink all day, which is something I didn't do, I was in pain. And so I started counseling. I started working with a therapist. I also removed myself from the South and I moved to New York City immediately upon graduating from college. I got myself to Manhattan. I got a therapist. But I continued the good girl, bad girl thing. And I got to the point where I was so disgusted with my behavior, and thank God I was in therapy, that my therapist said, she was like, did you ever think maybe you have a drinking problem? And I was like, kind of thought everybody blacked out. I literally was ignorant. I did not know. I did not know that wasn't normal. She said, have you ever checked out a meeting? They have A meetings, and I didn't even know what that was. Never heard of it. I mean, we're talking like on some level, I was clueless about health. I just knew that I didn't want to end up in the situations I had been ending up, which was waking up places that I didn't know, and I didn't know how I got there. I went to my first meeting. It was downtown in Soho. I walked into the basement and there were probably 150 young people there. And I was just shocked. And I'm like, who are these people? It was every kind of person that I would want to drink with. Every kind of person that I would want to party with. And my first, this punk rocker girl came up to me. I mean, she was such a badass. She came up to me and she's like, she was like, oh, it's your first day. And you know how people in 12-step programs are usually pretty friendly to the newcomer. So I was getting a lot of that, and that really also threw me because I had I just hadn't experienced people being that open and kind. My experience of getting sober in Manhattan was the most exhilarating, exciting, brilliant time I ever had in my life. And the community was so strong. So, every time we got together, we would then go out and have fun. And literally have fun. The meetings were great. But it wasn't that kept me sober. It was the community and the friendships and the interesting people and the famous people that walked into the rooms and, the rock stars that I sat next to. That was something I feel super blessed to have experienced. And I never, ever drank again. I mean, a day at a time. So, and those people are still my friends. We worked on our emotional sobriety. My first sponsor said, wear your recovery like a loose garment. Just don't drink, don't do drugs, do whatever else you need to do. Be as safe as you can, but have fun, because that will keep you coming back. And so I have carried that with me these 28 years. I've never stopped having fun. And I try to help people find recovery, sustain recovery through the hard work that needs to be done. I don't do anything alone, ever. I built a business that once I got sober a couple years in, we're super ambitious. Our alcohol and drugs is such a testament to what's possible for us. When we're so hungry to get obliviated and we figure out how to do that, if we transfer that hunger to something constructive, like literally the world is our oyster.
How do you have fun in recovery today?
Well, I'm not 24, I'm not 27, I'm not 30. And every chunk of time, fun was different, right? For those periods of time. Fun for me now is being home with my family. Fun for me now is really understanding and immersing myself in the stability and the comfortable, cozy life that I've created. I have a 10-year-old son. I didn't have my first child till I was 42. I didn't get married until, we got married a few months before we had the baby. I hadn't met my partner, my husband, I hadn't met him until I was 40. We stand up paddleboard and we surf and we swim like fish, weather permitting. I love swimming and I love the water. The other thing I really love is I have fun with friends. For me, having a good laugh with a friend on the phone or in person, whatever I have to do to connect and sort of be with them, I have a great time doing it. Those are a few of the ways I have fun now. Had I continued down that path, I would probably have died of an overdose. And I was so sad and so depressed. And I'm the opposite of that now. And I'm the go-to person in my community for people who need help. So I have fun sharing my story and giving hope to people that have none, or even if I don't give hope, I enjoy being the person that can listen. I never felt seen and heard. I never felt seen and heard until I was seen and heard. And so I don't take that lightly, but I do truly believe that connection is the opposite of addiction. And if we can, hold that space for someone, then they, I can only speak for myself. Then I felt connected and I didn't want to be addicted.
Is there anything else that you would want to say to that potential viewer?
The reason I would drink again, or the reason I would use again, was always fear-based. It was always because of some fear. And what I have learned over these years is that fear is a huge liar. It's a lie. So if there's one mantra I would put up on my wall, it's fear is a liar.